All right, so here we are once again. It's now officially spring.
It is officially spring.
It's amazing.
Feel like it?
No.
It depends on the day.
It depends on the day, or especially around here, it depends on the day.
Yeah, this weekend I was out on one day doing gardening, and then the day before it was snowing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. And my sinuses and everything are just wreaking havoc. I absolutely, my nasal passages have no idea what season it is, because today it's really kind of humid, actually. At least it is in here.
Yeah.
I don't know about outside, but in here it feels kind of muggy.
Yeah, and we're in that you need your jacket, your winter coat in the morning, but you short sleeves in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but hey, I guess it's better. Well, I guess it depends on whether you like winter or not.
That's
I mean,
true.
if you're a winter person, then you're probably upset about this. But personally, I like being able to go outside without a jacket and a parka and everything else on. So
It's a good happy medium. Yeah.
yeah. I wish, we live in a temperate climate, as they call it. Like, we get all 4 seasons.
Right.
But it seems like around here, it's gotten a lot different. It seems like we have a very short spring, maybe a slightly longer, but like our spring feels like it's about a month. A lot of times we go from having days in the 30s and 40s to days in the 70s and 80s pretty fast around here.
That's true. Yeah.
Fall's a little bit different, but
And we definitely live in that, you have winter and then fall, spring, and then second winter, and then second fall, spring.
we're like hobbits.
Yeah.
We have first breakfast and second breakfast. And, So with spring upon us, I have no segue because spring has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. It just happens to be spring.
Spring is tax season, and tax season has something to do with what we're talking about today.
See, this is why we pay you the big bucks.
Right.
So we are going to talk about some stuff here that does relate to taxes. We're going to talk about Trump accounts. And we're calling them Trump accounts because that's the generic term that everybody's using in the media. I'm going to start this whole thing off by saying that this is not going to be a political discussion. We are not necessarily endorsing any political party or candidate or anything else. That's what they're called. They're called Trump accounts.
They were founded underneath the Trump administration.
Yeah. And so in order to address them properly, so you know what we're talking about, that's what we got to call them, right? So whether you find them positive or negative based on that name is completely up to you. What I will say is and I think that we're going to get through this pretty well. I think we're going to get this message across pretty well, regardless of whose name is attached to this. Don't get caught up in the politics. If it makes financial sense for you to do this, then you should do it, no matter whose name is attached to it.
Yeah, right.
And just as an example, did you know that Roth IRAs are not an acronym?
I did not know that before our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Roth IRAs are named after Senator William V. Roth, who was a longtime serving senator from Delaware. And he was the one that came up with the idea of the Roth IRA being a taxable IRA now and then not having to pay taxes on it later. For those of you that want to know the difference between a traditional and a Roth, that's pretty much the basic difference is whether it's tax deferred now or tax deferred later.
Right.
And so we call them Roth IRAs, and it's just what it is.
So who's traditional?
That is
kidding.
That's an excellent question. So tell us what Trump IRAs. Tell us what.
Very good.
Yeah, tell us what Trump accounts are, basically.
Yeah, so Trump accounts are essentially IRAs. So under the Trump administration, they're allowing you to open an account, and if your child was born between 2025 and 2028, the government will seed that account with $1,000, a one-time seed deposit. That child cannot touch that money until they turn 18. You are the custodian of that account until they turn 18.
Okay.
At which time they take control of it. They can spend it on educational purposes, and they have some benefits if you spend it on educational purposes versus something else. Or they can let it ride until retirement age and take it out then. But once they turn 18, it converts to an IRA, traditional IRA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is in their name, just to be perfectly clear from the word go.
Right.
This is their account.
Right.
You as their parent or guardian or custodian are you're the adult in charge until they turn 18, but it's their account. And then after they turn 18, they can basically do what they want with it. Now, much like any other savings vehicle, it's generally best to continue contributing to it and letting those dollars grow.
Sure.
However, you could use it for education or something along those lines at the age of 18 if you chose to. Obviously, if you let it go until you're of retirement age, you're looking at a significantly larger amount of money.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars difference. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think
potentially. Yeah.
Potentially. Right. So, and I think that's where this comes down to, is that this was put into place, I think, to help people who have not really done a very good job. And in this country, we do a relatively poor job, to be perfectly honest, in setting ourselves up for a comfortable retirement. And so this is a way to try to help this new generation of Americans. And I say it that way because you specifically must be an American citizen in order to enjoy this.
You have to have a Social Security number. Yep.
To start planning for retirement before they're even old enough to spell the word.
Yeah.
Now, you recently had an addition to the family.
I did, yes.
So,
I signed up for the Trump account whenever they open it up.
Okay.
Yeah. So I should be getting some sort of correspondence here in May about it. I believe July 4th is whenever the government puts the money into that account, that $1,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the country turns 250,
that's true. Yep.
$1,000 goes into these. Into these
Great
accounts.
Birthday gift. Yeah.
Reverse birthday gift.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that though, because you made a good point earlier when we were sort of discussing this off mic, and that is that nothing, much like going to a casino, nothing is free.
True.
The government is going to get something out of this deal, one way or the other, right?
Yep.
So they're seeding the money and they're putting that $1,000 in, and that is yours, or not yours, but your son's or your child's, right?
Yep.
But it is taxable upon withdrawal, and there are penalties and things like that if you withdraw early and everything, just like any other IRA.
Yep.
So the government's going to get at least some of that money back in terms of taxes, and probably, if you let it go, probably a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that is taxable money that, quite frankly, they probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because if you never started an IRA, then they couldn't tax it.
Right.
So,
okay.
So in a way, it is a way for the government to make money, but you're going to likely make more.
Yeah. Right.
So again, just because the government might make out on this deal doesn't mean that you should not do it, because you're likely, or your child is likely, to make out a lot better than the government ever will.
Yeah, it's eventually going to be a win-win for both parties. Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what happens when you contribute to this. Well, okay, let's do this. Let's pretend you never contribute.
Okay.
Right. Let's pretend that that $1,000 goes in. And you never add another dime to it.
Okay.
What is your child likely to see in terms of a return? And we say likely because, just like anything else, this is all based around investments, the stock market, things like that, just like your regular traditional IRAs are, because this is eventually going to become a traditional IRA. So your mileage may vary, but in general, what are they likely to see by the time they turn, say, 18?
In general, when they turn 18 and the stock market trends how it has been trending, year after year, $6,000-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, by the time they turn 18, I mean, that's enough for a book in college.
Well, you're paying taxes on that too, so it's a little bit less. So, maybe you might have to share books, but
yeah. I mean, really, at the rate that colleges are increasing their fees, by the time it's 18, $6,000, I don't know what that's going to buy you.
Yeah, that's true. Now you do have to check IRA laws and see what you can spend that on for educational purposes, because it's not everything.
Okay.
I don't think I don't believe it's like room and board and that kind of stuff. It's for like tuition and that kind of stuff specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, maybe a good time to mention that there seemed, as with any new thing, there's confusion sometimes whenever they're announced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I can speak for myself. I was confused about this. I genuinely thought that these accounts were more for education when I first heard about them.
As did I, yes.
I did not understand at the time, whenever they were first announced, that they were more of and would convert to a traditional IRA. Mm-hmm. So they were for more long-term savings and investment, not so much, I mean, to an 18-year-old, 18 years is long-term, but to an adult, long-term is 55, 65, whatever.
Right.
I didn't realize that at the beginning. So that's an important distinction to make, because there were a lot of people that were comparing these to 529 plans.
I think my tax prepper even called it a 529 plan. Yeah.
So that's a concern, because
that is a concern.
Because your tax preparer isn't necessarily up to snuff on this yet either.
Right. I've learned more just doing my own research than when I did my taxes. When you initially say that you want to open one of these accounts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's the reason why you should always listen to this podcast, because we're gonna give you the dirt. And I say that, and with all complete genuineness, we are doing our very best to give you the most accurate information, but we still always encourage you to do your own research, because things do change. These episodes, they get older. Things change from the time they were aired to the time that you might listen to it. So, always keep that in mind. No matter what we're talking about on the podcast, you definitely want to be doing your own research or talking
to a professional, a tax professional. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Or financial advisor or whatever.
Yep.
But because I'm sure most of you don't actually stick around and listen to the disclaimer at the end of every episode.
Start putting
tells you that.
We'll start putting it at the beginning, right?
Yeah. And then nobody will listen.
Well, okay.
So let's talk about the differences between this and something like a 529.
Okay. Yeah.
So a 529 plan, now both of these grow tax-free or tax-deferred.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So a 529 plan, contributions grow tax-free, withdrawals are also tax-free if used for a qualifying education expense. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the money that you're putting into that 529 plan is taxed prior to you putting into that plan. That's what that means. So your income is taxed. Your
income is taxed, and then you're putting it. Yeah, right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with these Trump accounts, the growth is tax deferred, meaning that just like a traditional IRA, you can put the money in pre-tax, and then withdrawals are generally taxed as ordinary income upon withdrawal. Secondary difference, 529 funds obviously must be used for education. That is tuition, books. It has to be used K through 12. Like, for example, if I guess if you were doing some sort of like a private schooling, you might be able to use those funds for that. But again, if you're withdrawing the funds that early, I don't know how much you're really benefiting from the investment portion of the plan.
Yeah. But so say your child does not go to school, doesn't want to seek higher education.
Yes.
I think that money can be rolled over into like a Roth IRA.
It can.
I'm sure you have penalties again.
Yes.
But it at least can be rolled over to Roth IRA.
Right. So having a 529 plan, because you make a good point, and I think we talked about this with George Camel.
I think we did.
Hint, nudge, nudge. You can go back and listen to that if you want to. For all of you Dave Ramsey fans. 529 plans, you are making an assumption that your child is going to want a higher education.
Yeah.
At a relatively young age when you start these 529 plans, if you want them to be effective. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, if your child makes the decision down the road, hey, I don't want a higher education for whatever reason, that money doesn't go to waste. You might not get your full dollar value the way you would if you used it for education expenses, but it's not going to be a waste of your money. And the government's not just going to take it all and say, sorry, you can't use this for anything. The money is yours. Yeah. It's just that.
I think you can also roll that over into another child. If you had another child and you say one goes to college and the other one does not, and you had a 529 for both of them, I think you can roll one into the other, which I don't believe you can do that with a Trump account. But I mean,
yeah, I don't think so, because it's in their name and and you're as the custodian or the
right.
Yeah. Other differences. Obviously, 529 plans typically do not receive federal seed money. Although some states, depending on where you live, some states will sometimes offer a small matching grant of some sort. You'd have to look into your state to find out whether your state does or not.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, a matching grant is different. You have to still front the money, and then the state might match what you put in up to a certain amount.
Gotcha.
Whereas, as you pointed out with the Trump accounts, children born between 2025 and 2028 are eligible for that one-time $1,000 federal grant deposited by the U.S. Treasury. And then this is, I think, where one of the big key differences is. A 529 plan has a high limit. Many states allow total balances that exceed $500,000 per beneficiary in a 529 plan. Whereas with a Trump account, you are capped at $5,000 per year per child until they turn 18. And then after that, the traditional IRA limits become imposed.
Yeah, that you can put in, or a family member or whatever. Yeah. Now, companies or your place of business or your local municipality may decide that they want to put extra money in, and that doesn't count towards that $5,000, but it's still a lot lower than what a 529 plan is.
Sure. Yeah. So, so even if you were I did the math real quick before we started this. So, we said earlier that if you never put a dime into the Trump account, that $1,000 is likely to be, the investments and everything that is likely to grow to about $6,000 by the time they turn 18.
Right.
Even if you were to put in the maximum amount of $5,000 per year per child until they turn 18, the Trump account is likely to be, and now this doesn't take into account the investment side. This is just how much.
This is what you're depositing,
right? Is likely to be worth about $90,000.
Okay.
When they turn 18, plus whatever the investment would be. So if you take an 8 to 10% return per year on that $90,000, I mean, but you're still not. I guess my point is you're still not likely to hit $500,000.
No. Yeah. You're if you put in $5,000 a year up until the age of 18, you would have roughly $271,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go. So
that's
you're
with the interest and everything.
Yeah. So you did the math and I didn't. Yes. So that's good. So so you're talking a little more than half. Like you're talking not even say like 55%.
Yeah.
Now that's assuming that you have that amount of money to put in the first place, right? Just because the 529 allows you to have $500,000 per beneficiary doesn't mean you have the money to put into to reach that number.
Right.
But all things being equal, if you can afford to put the maximum amount of money into either of those two plans and your intent is for your child to use it for education, the 529 plan is your better bet.
Absolutely.
That is also not to say that you shouldn't still open a Trump account for them. Because, I mean, it's designed for long-term retirement savings, not education.
Right. And it's free money, essentially, too. Yeah.
So, again, even if now let's do this. Let's talk about the long-term effects. So you said retirement. How much is the Trump account likely to be worth? Again, assuming you put nothing into it, how much is it likely to be worth at retirement or say like age like 55?
55, that would be worth $243,000.
Having put nothing into it at all.
Nothing in. If you put in the $5,000 a year from when you opened it till 55, that would be roughly $13 million.
That's crazy. That's good. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially for people that realistically have never put away a significant amount of money for retirement. Having I would love to have $13 million available to me at the time I retire. I won't.
I won't either.
Guarantee you that right now. I won't.
Because I didn't have a Trump account.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Okay, so let's do something a little more realistic, though, because honestly, not everybody has $5,000 a year to put into this. Especially, I don't know about you, but when I turned 18, I was not I don't know if I made $5,000 that first year when I was starting to work.
Right.
I mean, I probably did, but adjusted for inflation, I definitely did. But I don't know if I realistically did in real dollars.
And if you had it, you probably wouldn't put it away like that anyway.
No, no. I literally remember. I'll segue this. I literally remember one of my first jobs. I was working for an electronic. I'll say it. It was Circuit City. Because they're defunct and they can't sue me now. So, actually, I guess the name was bought, but I'm not talking. I'm not talking about the current version of Circuit City. I'm talking about the old one. So I worked for them, and I remember one of the district managers was going around, and they were doing the sort of stump for the retirement savings accounts at the store. And they were doing, at the time, as I recall, something pretty generous. I think they were matching up to 4 or 5% or something.
That's pretty good.
I mean, like it was pretty nice.
Yeah.
And the district manager, I remember telling me, they pulled me aside and they're like, you need to put into this. And I said, look, I can't afford to put into this. I'm working part-time, or maybe I had just turned full-time. I don't know. But regardless, I wasn't making enough in my mind to put money into this. And they said, listen, at your age, if you were to put in just, I don't remember what they said, probably like $100 out of every pay or something like that.
Yeah.
It would just exponentially grow. And I didn't fully appreciate it at the time. I wish I would have done it.
I was in the same boat. Yep. Yep.
I really wish I would have done it. But to be fair, when you're that age and you're deciding, well, do I put $100 into my retirement savings for something that won't happen to me for the next 50 years?
Yeah, that's so far down the road. I can use that money now. Yeah, or I'll make up that difference down the road. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or can I go out with my friends tonight and eat pizza and drive around and have a good time?
Yeah.
You're gonna likely pick that.
Yeah.
Unless you're super, super disciplined. And I'm here to tell you, be super, super disciplined if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that it's not likely to happen. So let's pretend that you contribute far less than $5,000.
Okay.
What number would you say is still a reasonable number?
$250 a year.
Okay.
Okay.
So $250 a year into a Trump account.
Okay.
For the next
55 years.
Right, 55 years. Right.
Well,
because,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So assuming that you and or your parent guardian until you're 18 puts $250 a year into this, what are they likely to have? You said age 55?
Age 55.
What are they likely to have at 55?
$878,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
For as little as $250 a year.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, $250 a year is nothing.
I have subscriptions that are more than that.
Yeah.
For a year.
I mean, really, if you have a job, even if it's a part-time job,
Yeah.
there's a pretty solid chance that you could manage to scrape together $20 a month.
Sure. Yeah.
Right, to put into this, because that's really what it comes down to.
Yep.
Is if you could put $20 a month into this account, you're consistently for that time, you're looking in excess of $750,000 waiting for you at the other end when you retire.
That would help you with the
That's a
retirement. That would help you with
deal.
budgeting. Yeah. I mean, it's a great discipline to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's certainly better than any savings account you're going to put $250 a year into.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically speaking,
Yeah, even a
most
high
savings
yield saving account is only about 5%.
I mean,
like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really good. That's like your. I don't even know what bank would offer a 4 or 5% on a savings account these days. I'm sure there are probably some that do. I know we don't.
We do.
Not on a traditional savings. Now that's more like a CD rate or something like that. And even then, depending on
That's still tough too.
Yeah, depending on what the Wall Street Journal prime rate is doing and all that stuff, finding a CD rate in excess of 5% consistently over the next 55 years
True. Yeah.
is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
That's gonna be tough. So, yeah, this is definitely something that you should seriously consider for your child at this stage of the game.
Yeah.
Even if you can't afford to put anything into it now, take the seed money and then try to put something into it later. But my gosh, I mean, if you open one of these up and you can afford that $20 a month to put into that, your child will thank you. Even if it's taxed at whatever the going tax rate is 55 years from now, they're still likely to come away from this with, well over $500,000.
Oh, it's going to help them regardless.
No matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is now, how did you go about getting one of these? Like, how did you open one?
When I went and had my taxes prepared,
okay,
that was a question. Do you want to open a Trump account? And it was as simple as that. I mean,
okay,
I'm sure that they did all of the paperwork in the background, but there's a form of 4547. It's 40,
yeah,
IRS form 4547 that you would need to fill out to initiate that account. And then, like I said, in May-ish, you would get some sort of correspondence with instructions on how to actually open that account and manage it and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you may not know this yet. Did you just open this at your local bank, or do you have to open it online? Like, is there a bank that handles it through the federal government?
The Treasury, they have a specific broker that they use, I'm assuming. And
okay.
I believe you can roll that over into your broker of choice later on. But I think everything initiates under the Treasury.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And these are actually under Section 530A.
530
of the Internal Revenue Code. So if you're looking for that information, it's and you're looking for something beyond Trump account. These are a 530A under the Internal Revenue Code. It is possible as well, from what I've read, that employers may be able to contribute to this. I don't know that any employers have taken that step at this point because these are so new.
Oh yeah, they're not. I mean, not even open yet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if any. I mean, some employers may be having these conversations already to say, okay, well, if we have employees that are parents that want to open these, could we find a way to make that a benefit of?
It'd be I was going to say it would be another nice perk, another nice benefit to offer your employees. Yeah.
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 So, you might want to look into that again, not necessarily right now, because as Jeff pointed out, these aren't really open yet, but maybe next year, in 2027, you may want to broach the subject with your employer and just ask, like, hey, are you making any plans to contribute to these, and some employers I'm sure are. And some may not.
I'm sure
be.
it's a benefit to them too. I'm sure they get some sort of tax break on it.
You'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this, which is, I was reading a story that there was a woman that was having a conversation with somebody about these, and they said that they refused to open it based on the fact that it was called a Trump account and that it was a Trump thing. And I'm not trying to come down one side or the other on the political fence here. I will say that in general, I understand the human desire to spite the person you don't like, right? Whether it's, I'm not going to attend that function because so-and-so's going to be there. My ex is going to attend, so I'm not going to so-and-so's birthday party.
Yeah.
In reality, you're probably cutting off your own nose to spite your face at that point. You're missing out on a great party because your ex is going to be there that you probably would just be able to stay on the other side of the room of and avoid.
Yeah. And this is the same thing. Yeah. You're only hurting not yourself, you're hurting your child. Yeah.
So definitely, we're not advocating that you definitely do this.
Right,
and we certainly can't say that the numbers we've put out there today are hard and fast. Yes, this is what it's going to be worth. But, they always say if you look at the return on the stock market over time, and this we say this all the time on the show, when you're talking about savings, time is your friend. Starting early, don't touch the money, contribute as much as you can. Don't look at your balance, right? Because you don't want to get tempted at like, oh man, I'm 45 years old and I could take out $100,000 and go nuts with it. That you'll never recover. To go back to what you were saying earlier about I'll make it up later.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, in reality, you'll never recover because it's the law of exponence.
Mm-hmm.
You're exponentially adding interest and return on that money. If you stop in the middle and take it back out and start from zero again, you'll never make up that time.
Yep.
So keep that in mind. You know, the earlier you start, the better with any kind of savings vehicle. And this, I have a hard time finding a bad side.
It's a new product. It's a new account. I'm sure going to keep evolving. I'm sure rules are going to change and features are going to change, and hopefully all for the good of the account holder. But you never know. Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, too, it is your money, or your child's money.
Mm-hmm.
So, if things do change from now when it's brand new, and by the time they're 18, the account is no longer as viable or equitable as we think it's going to be, take your lumps, take your money, and go do something else with it. But you're not going to have zero.
Yeah.
That's the thing about any savings account is a savings account will never be zero. You might not get the return on that money that you think you're going to get in terms of the investment side.
Yeah.
But it's never going to be worth nothing. It's kind of like gold or commodities that we talked about. They're never going to be worth zero.
Right.
Short of a meteor hitting the earth and the monetary system of the globe.
Then I don't care.
Under.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. At which point I don't care.
Yeah.
So, all right. I think this was a good discussion.
I learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And if you have questions, you can go to trumpaccounts.gov. We'll put the link in the description.
Okay, yep.
Along with, I'm sure there are other verifiable. I'm sure the IRS probably has some stuff out there too.
They do. Yep.
We'll put links in the description if you want to research this stuff on your own, as you should.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, if any of this appeals to you, just think of the potential return on even zero, even if all you do is let the $1,000 the government hands you ride, you're likely to come out of this way, or your child is likely to come out of this way, way ahead. And if you contribute literally almost anything on a regular basis to this,
So only to your benefit. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's awesome stuff. So, yeah. Oh, you know what? We almost forgot to mention. So let's just real brief.
Okay.
Let's talk about this. This Dell grant.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay.
No, we didn't mention that. I wanted to make sure we mentioned that too, because that was brought up in the State of the Union about Dell computers, right? Or the owners or whatever.
Yeah.
Were contributing. But let's talk about that too, because there are some caveats to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So Dell agreed to donate like $250 to children ages 10 and under who were born before 2025. So outside of that window of the $1,000 seed money. So they wanted to hit, the children that didn't get anything essentially.
Okay.
And they're hoping that other companies are going to do the same thing that Dell's doing and would, contribute seed money as well.
Yeah. But that was definitely something I wanted to talk about because, again, when we started researching this, we kind of had the impression that you were getting the $1,000 and that.
I was under that impression.
That grant, but that's not really it. It's sort of an either or thing. You're either getting the $1,000 from the government or you're getting this $50. Now, as you pointed out, other benefactors may be out there looking to create these grants, and you may see those numbers go up, even for people 2025 to 2028. Whatever. But
you might, yeah.
But we don't know that.
Right.
So in this particular case, if you have a child that was born in 2024, back to essentially 2014-ish, you may benefit from opening one of these accounts and getting that $250, which
again is free money, and
your mileage is going to vary, but it's like you said, it's free money.
Yeah.
Take it if you can, and give your child a leg up. So,
yep.
Because as parents, that's what we all want. I think.
Yeah. And times, but they, trend, not always positive. So, give them a little fighting chance.
Fair. All right. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
All right.
This podcast focuses on having valuable conversations on various topics related to banking and financial health. The podcast is grounded in having open conversations with professionals and experts with the goal of helping to take some of the mystery out of financial and related topics, as learning about financial products and services can help you make more informed financial decisions. Please keep in mind that the information contained within this podcast and any resources available for download from our website or other resources relating to Bank Chats is not intended and should not be understood or interpreted to be financial advice. The hosts, guests, and production staff of Bank Chats expressly recommend that you seek advice from a trusted financial professional before making financial decisions. The hosts of Bank Chats are not attorneys, accountants, or financial advisors, and the program is simply intended as one source of information. The podcast is not a substitute for a financial professional who is aware of the facts and circumstances of your individual situation. Thank you for listening. Please check out our full library of episodes, which can be found on the AmeriServ.com website. You can also download or stream the podcast from your favorite podcast app.